Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Indie Author Live Chat. I am Catherine, and today I have a very special guest. We have Amber Gatlin with us today. Amber writes fantasy romance, which, if you haven't heard any of yet, she did a YouTube video, a live read here on the channel, and I'll drop that in the description box for you guys as well. But you can go listen to some of that book. But Amber, thank you for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you write and the
Hello.
book that you read for us?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I am Amber Gatlin. Like you said, I write fantasy romance. I've read the genre for well over a decade. It started with just fantasy whenever I was in junior high, and then as I got older, I wanted to write like little stories with no real dream to publish. I just thought that it would be fun to write them, and then I started letting friends read them, and they thought this is actually pretty good. You should give it a whirl. So it's a great outlet. It's a good form of artistic expression. I really dig doing it.
They've been writing for a while and actually are one of the brave people who trusted your friends to critique it before going forward. Because I know some of the authors come on, they're like, I never imagined anybody would read my book ever.
Yeah,
Your friends sort of guided you in that direction. So I guess they're not surprised at how good you've been doing with your writing.
not at all. I ran into a teacher that I had in junior high. I was an English teacher once while I was doing hair, and she even said, like, "What are you doing these days?" I said, "I'm doing hair." She said, "Why aren't you publishing books?" Why aren't I publishing books? So I've gotten, just little bits of inspiration and advice and well wishes from so many people, and I consider selling one single book successful. It doesn't matter if it was my sister or my mother. It's something, and people talk about it, and it's really exciting, and I'm just glad that anybody enjoys reading it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got over 50, I think it's like 60 something reviews now on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And they're all really positive, great reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're watching and you're like, I've got to see this book, you can read it free on Kindle Unlimited, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the twist in it because it's a fantasy romance, but it actually starts out with sort of the broken love instead of, here's this young girl, she's falling in love for the first time, she's whisked away by Fae. Here we've got, I'm just going to say, he's sort of a crappy husband.
Yeah, no, he is for
He
sure.
breaks her heart and he runs off to the Fae, and you're just like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
um, how was it sort of spinning that trope from the original? Is that something that, just came to you because of something else you read, or how did that story
So
come about?
when I turned my manuscript into my developmental editor, Lacey, it only had about 48,000 words. And bless her heart, she helped me try to develop some more of her story so that we could actually get to an acceptable number. And as I started just writing more and more and more, I thought, okay, well, I can put a prologue in the beginning of Kat's relationship, or maybe her trying to like heal from it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how the story ended up going. I needed to go into detail. I wanted people to see. I just I don't know. I feel like it's so much better whenever you can see a character not just start out, this is the reason why I can't do ABC. I'm going to show you the reason why she can't. That was
Mm-hmm.
very, very important for not only her character development, but for readers to be able to see that and understand. It's the first thing that everybody tells me. I want to push Callum off a cliff. Yeah, everybody does. That's why he's there. He's the
You're like,
perfect
I
person
did a
to
good
hate.
job. Oh, and Kat she's a strong woman, but
Mm-hmm.
she also has a tender side to her. And I think you did such a good job balancing that. I know as an author, a lot of times we put a good bit of ourselves into our characters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you've got so many characters in the book, but is there one that really stood out that you feel like is a better representation of who you are as a person, or is it sort of spread out?
Kat is probably the best representation of me, and Nick is probably the best representation of my husband. Like I know it. I know it. Like you said, you draw so much inspiration from what from your own experiences, from who you are as a person, and from your own personality. And little bits of me will go into every single character because that's just part of my own human experience and what I've witnessed in other people. But to get really into someone to write them properly, you have to have experienced it yourself. To me, I think so. And Kat is like me in that we want to push the problems as far away from possible, as far away from as possible, and throw ourselves into work. Because if you're working, you're being productive, and I can heal this way. This is fine. It's not fine,
Mm-hmm.
but this is just how her and I are very similar.
Yeah, yeah, that's so great. Because she really is. She is really well written. And as I was reading her, it just struck me how empowering she is as a person and as a character and an inspiration because she has a choice. And I don't know how much of this is in the blurb, so I'm going to be careful with what I say. But she ends up, like a good romantic plot would, she has to make a choice to love again at some point
Mm-hmm.
in the story. And it's so raw and real feeling what she does as you read through. It had to have been so hard to put that on the page through your lens.
It, you know what? The only part of it that was difficult, and thank you for saying that, was I so badly am somebody who wants to be over it, be over whatever it is, and move on to a better state of mind. So, in order
Mm,
to sit there and actually write through her process of how she has to work through things in order to get better, it doesn't look good on page or in a book for a character to just be like, oh, like, yeah, they're just going to be over it. No, that's not how real life works. You actually do take months, even years to work through something. And I really wanted people to see that I know that with romantic fantasy or even just romance in general, the point of the book and that genre is that you want, your readers will go, no, you're supposed to fall in love because that's the person and that's what this is supposed to be about. But I wanted them
mm,
to see that Kat felt really like she was okay being alone. There was
mm,
some, she's already been in love with someone who told her that she wasn't good enough. She was like, fine, well, I've made myself good enough for all of these other people. And so trying to trust herself enough again and another person to let herself be in love. I really wanted readers to be able to see that because I think that you can kind of like resonate with that a little bit better.
mhm. Yes, it definitely comes through, and it's just powerful.
Thank you.
Uh, you've got such a unique play on the Fae in the Fae world. So if someone's watching this and they're a lover of Fae fantasy, what's something you think that is like core to that genre that really comes through in the book, and then something unique that really comes through in the book?
Court of the genre, I would say, is more how they look and their
Mm-hmm.
appearance with, like the pointed ears and the perfect features, but how we have different types of fae, ones that range in like animals, maybe some people have horns or hooves. And then so in that play, that's very true to the fae. Something that's unique about it is the way I did the magic. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want the magic to stick with the individual specifically. It's just a part of them without being something that's innate that they're born with. It's more a part of the land, and a big part of the book I mean, it's a part of the entire world is the shattering after it happens. And now
Mm-hmm.
instead of a sun and a moon that's perfect in the sky, and you've got two different worlds that coordinate with those two different courts, we're going to revolve. Now we're going to become more of a more assimilated community of people, less tribal or houses or clans or however I'm going to end up doing it depending on which side of the mountain they live. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted that part to be unique to it, and in that I feel like I have as a fantasy genre a little bit more play and room to
Mm-hmm.
play with how I work my magic system now, instead of having to wait for one person to develop magic, or this person was born with it, this person was born without it. Nope, you're all screwed. The land's been leached of it. So now I've got everybody on an even playing field.
Right. Ah, yes, and the developmental editing too, I'm sure helped that really shine. And I wanted to spotlight that for any writers who may be watching this. I mean, if you are watching live, feel free to drop questions in the comments and I can pull those up on the screen as we go through. If you're watching the replay, you can leave your question in the comments and I will get those over to Amber. But I've had a lot of indie authors on the channel at this point, and something that I think readers are surprised to hear is when you go indie, you're in charge of everything. You're editing, you're formatting, your cover, which is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
But you're in charge of everything, and so few people use developmental editing. It is one of the pricier edits.
Mm-hmm.
But as an author, talking to other authors, how was that experience for you? Was it painful, difficult to work through, or was it sort of a partnership?
I don't know how I got so lucky to get Lacey Brazil, who was my editor, my development editor. She does all sorts of editing. She's freaking lovely. Because and I joke about this all the time with her, but I hand her my dumpster fire, and she tames the flames and makes it all nice and pretty. And she made it so simple and wonderful. And if it's your first book, if you're not much of a writer to begin with, or if you already struggled so much, I cannot stress how important developmental editing is. And if there are people out there who are good at their job like Lacey was, she comes up with financial ways for you to be able to pay for what you want and get what you want in return. And it makes it this beautiful, glorious manuscript. She did something different with me. I don't want to say that she does this with everybody. She was testing out something with me, and that's that her and I were both in my document together. So she would go through and edit. I could approve as she's worked through it, make my changes as necessary. And her and I just worked like that for months, and it worked really well for her and I. So that she was flexible like that was awesome. And again, I can't stress enough how important any kind of editing is, especially if you're new. Even just having a group of people to bounce ideas off of, to have someone to find your plot holes. Even if at the very end of it, you just want to do a simple line edit, at least you've done something. It's any kind of editing and feedback is very important. You can't be afraid of that criticism. You need that criticism.
It's so true. I think when I got my developmental editing back from my debut novel, I quit writing for a year. But then when the callus was ripped off and I went back and looked, I was like, really, I think I needed that kick to my pride early on, because it's humbled me for the rest of the journey. Being like, she's right, all these points are great. And it really did, like you said, it makes the work really shine.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're a writer, I do have a indie author behind the scenes playlist, and there is some videos with guest authors and stuff about finding editors, and actually a panel of editors, so you can check that out. But one of the reasons I brought up the developmental editor is your world building, like I said, is so great, and the characters are so well developed. With a romance, especially in fantasy, sometimes it seems like there's a leaning to the romance over the rest of the story or the rest of the character development. It becomes sort of tunnel vision. And you've managed to avoid that tunnel vision where it's like, oh, it's just about this love interest. Instead, we've got this rich story about the Fae and their world and the magic that's leaving or gone. And we've got Kat, who's having to find herself. Are you a planner to keep up with all these details? How do you do it?
Not even kind of. Bloxham was a disaster. The next book is called The Gilded House of Apis. It has a whole lot more organizing. Bloxham had none. Even though I had like notebooks filled with everything that I wanted, it was just story based. It had nothing to do with magic systems, worlds, names. I have an entire wall over here next to me that is now littered with Post-its so that I can remember what magical name that I made up, because I am notorious for just banging on a keyboard and whatever vowels and consonants pop up, that's my new magic word. Cool, it worked. How am I going to remember it? I use an app called Notion, or I'll use the Notes app on my iPhone. Just hurry up and stick it in there just real quick so I don't forget it. I've had to become more organized again with developmental editing, especially if you have a really good person. She was so good at saying, okay, well, you've used this word here, and now you've got another term of endearment down here, but you've spelled it differently. Just which spelling do you want to go with? Or is this a whole nother word? Because I didn't plan for any of that. But you have somebody that's got that eye, or even if you've got a friend or an ARC reader or just a beta reader, someone who just enjoys it, and they want to point out these little things, just that helps so much. But I've learned to get more organized. I was not for Bloxham at all.
So now you have a wall of magic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the wall of magic. It makes me wonder if you have like a magic word of the day that you share or something.
No, well, that would actually be kind of cool, probably. If I don't know, I'm not really good at sticking with stuff. I'll come up with new concepts all the time for Instagram or a new Discord channel that I want to come up with, and then I never participate. The idea was great. I followed through with completing it, and then I never did it again.
You've got so much going on and so much you're coordinating. And you mentioned the next book. How is it going?
Well, I got about, I know. I got to about 35,000 words and then came to a stall the last few weeks, but I started a new job and trying to get used to all of that. And I didn't lose inspiration for the writing or anything. I'm trying to re-fall in love with the story, but I do tend to write in a very linear way. So if I get stuck on one half a chapter where I don't understand what I want to do with the scene, I'm going to stay stuck there until it's time to move on. I can't jump around and do scenes and then find a way to connect it later. My brain just doesn't work like that. So I'm about halfway done writing it. I'm hoping that life settles back down in the next couple weeks and I can get back to it. I have a lot of time this weekend. Maybe I'll find some inspiration and get to going. As I did say, I did have to be more organized with this one. So I actually have an outline. Hot dog. So I have like a tentative idea of what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, the first one just came out in October of last year. I mean, it's
yeah.
not even a year old yet. So
you're right. And I do have some author friends and I adore them and they're so sweet. And I get so jealous that they can put books together and have 4 out in a year. And I just look at them in awe. Like, I love you. I'm so envious. I wish I could do that, but I can't. And it's okay that I can't.
Yeah, when you're indie and you got the day jobs, it's like you're superwoman over there. You got a real life and a family and all this stuff, and then you're also writing, marketing.
Yes, yeah, and it gets overwhelming sometimes because I am my own boss, and I'm not a good employee, and I suck as a boss, so it's a very awful relationship.
So this is a passion project, is what it really is.
Exactly.
What sort of drove you to take on all this work? I mean, people who say if you don't go traditional and you're going indie, it's because it's the easier route. It's definitely not the case by a long shot. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the agonizing emotional toil of the querying side if you go traditional. But then on the indie side, it's the stress of everything else. So what sort of sent you this direction?
I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't want to listen to what anybody else wanted. And I know that there's difficulties that come along with being indie, but being indie is a buffet of stuff. You can pick any route you want to. I know authors that do amazingly well with newsletters. I've tried a newsletter route that didn't go well for me. But some people will get stuck on like social media or they've got all of these just amazing, they go to fairs, just all of these amazing ways and openings for you to market yourself. I hate marketing. I hate the word marketing and advertising. I don't like it. I don't like doing it. It makes me want to crawl out of my skin. But Amber, if you want to sell your work, then you kind of have to. And so the drive is just, I don't want to have to listen to anybody else. I don't like deadlines. And this is my free-for-all way of keeping my art alive for me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And really, for me too, I think this journey has been about connection more than numbers.
Yes.
I have a day job that I love. As an editor, I love it. Getting paid to read is the best. But I write, like you said, for passion project. And if I ever got offered a huge contract, sure, I'd think about it. But
absolutely,
I've really enjoyed just the genuine connections that there are in the reader community. And that sort of leads me to my next question. You've had such good success in such a short amount of time. Would you be doing any signings or in-person events in the near future?
So I had no idea that was even a thing that indie authors did. I thought we just did our day jobs, wrote, and then if people want to consume our work, they can. I didn't know that there was other things like signings that I could go do. I was invited by, I think she's like an author and a reader, and now I think she's got her own like market production thing going on to sign up for a signing in Minneapolis next year. And actually signed up for it and was accepted.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never done that before. I've got all these ideas for how I want my booth to look in my heads, but I'm just, I don't know. It's next year, so we'll see.
You got time to prepare.
I've got time to prepare. Yeah.
Minneapolis next year, and if you guys are watching and you want to actually go get a book signed from Amber,
I'll be in Minneapolis.
Go to Minneapolis, but follow Amber on social media. I've got her links in the description box. Again, not just the book, but you can actually go follow Amber. Amber's got a pretty active Instagram, which is how I think I came across you, as Instagram. initially. But there's things like writing updates and um, just really things to connect the author community, and then also things just about life. And it's great. Great. Oh, goodness. So many good things. So, outside of this series, do you have any other series that you're sort of mulling over or thinking about working on, or is it all top secret?
None of it's top secret. I currently don't. I will stick the occasional idea in my notes app, but that's all it is. It's just it's a line in an app. I currently don't have any other plans. I do have a full plan according to my post-its. Um, the Saddest Steer World is going to be 6 books total. Um,
Wow.
it is 2 books in the Crescent Court, 2 books in the Gilded Court, and then there's 2 final books that have more to do with demigods of the world, which I'm really excited to write about.
Oh, that's right up my alley. Great. I'm very excited now.
Yeah, good.
Yes. So, thank you so much for joining us and chatting with
Yeah.
us. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you all for watching. Again, if you have not read any of Amber's work, you can hear a snippet of it on that YouTube live that Amber did, the live read here on the channel. Go give her a follow. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read her book for free. So go check those out and subscribe, because we will be bringing some other indie authors on in the next few weeks. Thank you, everybody. Good night.